Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our new episode of He Said, a look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King. It is Friday, April the 14th. Thank you all for joining us today. Finally, I think spring is here. It definitely is here in DC, and along with it are pollen, and people are sneezing and all that. But all in all, it is very beautiful. I hope you all are having a terrific day. I also want to, take this time for those of you who follow me. I posted on Easter weekend. I got food poisoning, and you guys were, I just posted it a few days later that getting through food poisoning is tough. And you guys just flooded my pages and saying, get better and showing some love. Some of you kind of went into my DM and just tried to call my number and everything. I really appreciate it. I didn't answer because I don't do that, but I really appreciate you guys, reaching out to me and making sure that I was okay. As you can see, I'm fine. I'm much better, but food poisoning is no joke. Okay. So don't go out and get it if you can help it. This weekend, it is Emancipation Day, DC, ladies and gentlemen, and there is a lot going on here. And for those of you who don't know the difference between Emancipation Day and Juneteenth and Emancipation Day, DC, let me explain it to you. In Texas and several other states, they are the same thing. A holiday on June 19th that commemorates the emancipation of enslaved people. DC Emancipation Day honors the day President Abraham Lincoln signed the Compensated Emancipation Act of 1862, which freed 3,100 enslaved persons in the District of Columbia. Okay, so that is the difference between Emancipation Day and Emancipation Day DC. All right, our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing our second series of Aging While Black. We are so happy that we're able to do that. And tonight, our episode is called Facing Reality. There is nothing, absolutely nothing more powerful than when a group of beautiful Black men get together and have a conversation to share and, give their opinions about things that we face every day in America, just because we are Black. And tonight we have a panel of beautiful men, beautiful, smart men who are joining us tonight, and you're going to meet them later. But they're going to talk with us about, the realities that we all face. We can't talk about everything, but we got a lot that we're going to talk about. And a little caveat about this series: our talk show host, panel member Bobby Edwards, he was on the first series of Aging While Black Men Over 50, and we snatched him right off the screen, and he's our he's one of our panel members, of which we are so happy to have him on board. So without further ado, let's go on and get on with the show, ladies and gentlemen. If you're ready for me to bring them in, let's get on with the chat. Hey.
What's up?
Hello.
Snatched from the panel was I. Just snatched.
Well, I was thinking about your waistline too. So
you are kind. You are
I
so
was
kind.
like, look, don't behave because I see what I see. Okay.
You are so kind. Thank you.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Say that one more time. No.
I'm looking at your waistline.
Thank you. No, I'm fine. Hey, Bosh.
Hey, Bobby.
Hi, Vash Boddie.
Alvin King, how are you?
I'm doing much better. Thank you all for checking in on a brother. I'm doing much better. Thank you so much.
I said to you when we were talking on the phone, there are a few times in my life where I literally thought this was it. Food poisoning is like, it's no joke. It's no joke.
It almost ruined my Easter, but here we are today.
Here we are, yeah.
For a new episode, and I just want I want to talk about a couple of things before we bring the fellas on. And one of the things I really want to talk about, get it right off my chest. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, this picture right here, I want to tell you, it is worth 1,000 words. Congratulations to Tennessee Representatives Justin L. Pearson and Justin Jones for being reinstated after being expelled last week. And I mean, I think it made them even more powerful. What do you think?
I certainly think so. And, and I think that there is certainly room for a bit of a victory lap in terms of their reinstatement, because I do think it's a powerful message. But I also caution us from over celebrating, because what happened also signals a very broken system. So the system itself is not fixed by the reinstatement, but I am pleased to see that the people rose to the occasion and said, not this time, not on our watch.
Well, it also sends a message to the party that expelled them, because you had the governor who has signed one of their gun laws into law. He has signed it, even though he have his own party who don't agree with him. So I definitely get what you're saying, but I think there's another way to look at that, to keep them energized with what they're doing, by celebrating, what they're doing. So I definitely don't get comfortable,
Yes. Yeah. I want to I think a celebration is worthy and appropriate. But I think I agree with you. Yeah, it's getting comfortable, because there's no room for being comfortable.
Yeah. Well, something else I don't want to be comfortable with right now. One of my most favorite actors has been hospitalized. Jamie Foxx, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you all heard, Bobby and Vash, if you all heard that this week he was hospitalized while he was on the set, actually finishing the movie with Cameron Diaz, Back in Action. Yeah. And I don't know what the medical situation is, but it sounds like it's pretty serious and hush hush. So
yeah, they're being very quiet. Medical complication, I think, is what most media sources have been reporting, that he suffered a medical complication.
Well, we're gonna keep him lifted. Okay, we're gonna do that, because there's a few rumors out there that people are trying to talk about what could have caused what they don't even know happen. Okay, all right.
And celebrities are worthy of confidentiality as well. We don't have the right to know everything about them simply because they're a celebrity. So
yeah. Since we're all men, I also wanted to bring to the chat tonight, I'm sure you may not have heard, but there's been a study about men and self-care.
Yes.
And here's a report right here that a recent study revealed that almost half of the men ages 18 to 42 say they need someone to confront them about their skincare regimen or lack thereof, their diet, their fitness routine, and sleep levels. So I thought that was okay, but why do you need somebody to confront you? I don't know what that meant.
To have an intervention, probably to let them know that there are better ways of doing what they're doing. So many men, I'm sure, look at skincare and hygiene things as being gay, so they don't want to do it. I mean, that's me just speculating. I mean, I don't know who the sample was for their study, but that's what comes to my mind.
That slide is disgusting.
Well, yes, because based on what they said, 54% of those young men brushed. Only 54% of those 100 men that were surveyed. Only 54% of them brushed their teeth daily.
And originally, when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, is that twice a day? That's just at all.
It's just at all."
Did you see the percentage that wash their face?
Yeah.
Yes.
30.
I haven't gotten through COVID.
What?
Those are like post-COVID numbers. It has to be, because during COVID, I know a lot of people who didn't wash their face or any other place for a couple of days at a time.
And I don't know who they surveyed, but that 19% moisturized, if they surveyed my community, there's some ashy brothers running around here.
See, and we don't want to talk about ashy. We don't even want to, because we don't even want to.
Because that picture will pop up.
We don't really talk about Ashley.
No.
But I just want y'all to know, at least in that demographic, for those of you all who, the study was done on that particular demographic, and for those of you who have friends or who are dating or whatever, that it was for that demographic. But I just wanted to just talk about that. That's what this study has shown. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, before we get on with the show, my girl, our girl, ex-host, Wendy Williams is about to embark on a reality TV show. Okay. Yes. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do. So according to reports, she walked up into a New York celebrity hotspot this week and had a producer hand out non-disclosure agreements to patrons. So in other words, she was kind of filming her reality show at that moment. And so I don't think she should do it, but I'm kind of here for it. But I don't think she should do it.
There's a lot happening here with her.
A lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
And it's for me, it's more sad than celebratory.
Yeah.
Is what I will say.
Yeah, well, we're gonna put her in our prayer circle also.
Yeah,
and we're gonna lift Wendy. So, all right, you guys. That's what's going
on. Is she under Jamie? Like, do we do Jamie first and then we hit her, or we just have a general pool? Like, how are we prioritizing?
Look,
is that a legitimate question, Vash?
I am not gonna tell you how to pray. Okay. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna tell you how to pray. So you do whatever you need to do. But thank you.
Alphabetical order.
But thank you. How you doing? Okay, can we say hello before we start the show? Hey, Monica. Hey, Michi. Yeah. Who is that? Monica, Michi. Yeah. Who else in here? Okay.
Sean is in here as well.
Hey, Sean. Everywhere.
I can't see things scrolling. But hey, Sean, how you doing?
Maybe I didn't see Sean. I'm sorry. That was Michi.
Okay, that's all right. So, okay, you guys, y'all ready? Because this series is it's really hot. We've been waiting to do it again since last August. So, if you all are ready, I want to go ahead and start it. So, and go ahead and introduce our special guest. So, all right. So let's go. Okay. Our first guest, he is a certified clinical trauma specialist, domestic violence specialist, and anger management specialist with a master's degree in human services counseling with a focus in crisis response and trauma. A native of Houston, Texas, and Ville-Plateau, Louisiana. I've said this wrong before. Cory has a keen interest in the study of psychological trauma and its effects and minority and underserved populations. In addition, George has also been has a keen interest in the long-term effects of historical and intergenerational trauma as it relates to African Americans. Having made several appearances on media outlets such as Huffington Post Live, owns network Ayala Fix My Life, and local radio and television outlets, George is known to instigate conversations that he considers to be deserving and more awareness. All right, our next guest, Sundiata Najja Alaye. He's an author, writer, and columnist, and much sought after lecturer and facilitator in spiritual psychotherapy worldwide. He is the former executive director of the HIV/AIDS Community Coalition, a nonprofit organization in Washington, D.C., serving people infected and affected by HIV and AIDS. Sundiata is a Brooklyn, New York born man, a Howard University grad, and the author of Sweet Cornbread and Hot Green Tea, a verve of soulful exploration of love, pain, loss, desire, tolerance, celebration, expressed through short stories, poetry, and prose, is Sundiata's first work of fiction and was released in March of 2017. Our last guest is Dr. Jamie Riley. Cincinnati-born native Jamie Riley is the Vice President of Equity and Inclusion for the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. He has worked as a racial justice and social change agent in higher education and/or nonprofit administration for almost 2 decades. Most recently, Jamie served as the National Director of Race and Justice at the NAACP, where he supported the association's advocacy, mobilization, research, and coalition building around radical justice, criminal justice reform, and economic inclusion. Dr. Riley attended Tennessee State University, where he received a Bachelor's of Science in Healthcare Administration and Planning and a Master of Education in Educational Leadership and Administration. He received his PhD in Counseling and Human Development from the University of Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our three special guests, Cory, Sundiata, and Jamie Riley.
Yes.
How you guys doing? Okay, can we talk? Look, again,
I'm laughing and you butchering my hometown as always. But
did I mess it up again, Cory?
Cory, why don't you say it?
Horrible, and I have to call the mayor of my hometown.
Cory, will you say the name of your hometown?
Yes. So first of all, I'm Creole, and it's in Louisiana, so it's French. Ville Platte, which means flat town in French.
Ville Platte.
Yes, only has 7,000 people, and I escaped. So yeah.
Ville Platte, Louisiana. Did he say Louisiana? Louisiana, is that how you say that?
Hey, Maurice.
No, you guys say no. So we say Louisiana. You guys say it that way, thinking that we say it that way. That's the funniest thing, because people always think, "Oh, that's how you talk." No, that's how y'all talk.
Well, before we get into this, I just want to say, if people are wondering if brothers are out here doing it, the credentials that were just laid out for our panelists just make me proud, and they're most impressive. So we thank you guys.
Oh, thank you.
For out here representing.
Welcome, you guys. Like Alvin had said, we have been looking forward to doing this particular show for a while, having Jamie and Cory back. And Sundiata, we have also wanted to have you on the show, especially because I love the title of your book. Okay. Anything that's got cornbread in it, you know. So I just want to ask you guys a question, so to break the ice. We all know that the magical he said cup grants you special powers.
Oh, wow.
So
no, but I'm excited.
I need one of those.
If and when you all are able to sip from your own chalice of he said, and gain superpowers, what would those powers be and why? Maybe we start with Jamie and then work our way across to Cory.
Superpowers.
Wow. Okay. I think my superpower would be time travel. I think that given the work that I've done and just living the life I've lived, I think knowing what I've known at this part of life, being able to travel through time and make some changes in both my personal life and in society would be a superpower that would be invaluable. So I'd say time travel. I hope that fits with where we were going. Maybe you were something less X-Men-esque and more. But no,
that's the good thing about this panel. It goes where it goes.
No, it goes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I started. All right. Time travel. That's my superpower.
I love it. Thank you, Sundiata.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to say time travel, but
go back and say it before Jamie does.
I think my superpower, when I see the kind of the longing, the loneliness, the lack of self-love in a lot of us, particularly in the same gender-loving male community, I think my superpower would be to be able to reach each and every one of us who are struggling, with trying to understand where our place is based on the things that we know about. Cory can say it better, but our trauma. We have a lot of trauma that brings to us. So I think that would be my superpower, to try to inject that sort of love and peace of our own souls.
And your superpower name will be Love Doctor.
Love Doctor. Dr. Love. And we can't even play the song. Okay, we can't even play it.
I wasn't going to say he thought that was his name when we were at Howard. That's another show, I think.
That's another show. Another audience.
Cory.
So what's ironic, I just replaced a man named Dr. Love at one of the private schools. Literally, and I said, is this a joke? But his name is Dr. Love. I said, oh, he's real. But I would have to say my superpower would not be a superpower. It would be something that we've always had, but life tends to dishonor us and force us to rewrite who we are. So what if I had the power, and I thought about this very quickly, it came very quickly. If I had the power to restore everyone's authentic self, which is not about race, which is not about sex, which is not about creed, all those are social constructs that if you apply them to yourself, you already had so many gates and limiting factors. So that saved my life like years ago. Finding my authentic self, which is loving and compassionate and empathetic. That's all I want for everybody I work with, is to find your most authentic self that is not ruled by someone saying you have to be this or that. And that's it.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. The ice is broken.
The ice is broken. Okay. All right.
Thank you. All right.
So the purpose of this panel is to really create a very informal, organic conversation among men around a variety of topics. Alvin, Vash, and I were thinking about a variety of things that we face as Black men in this society today. Thus, the aging while Black, facing our realities, and so forth. So one of the things that we'd like to discuss right now, gentlemen, is just being Black in the current anti-racist movement, the current day of anti-racist movement. Recognizing that there is a cost. There has always been a cost of being an anti-racist. There's always been a cost of being an activist. And so we'd like to ask a couple of questions of you that kind of reflect on some of those aspects of what we pay, if you will, to be active anti-racist Black men in this society. So to begin, I'm going to turn it over to my fellow co-host, Vash. That would be you.
That would be you.
One of the things that came up when we were thinking about this is, as Black gay men, do you feel included in the current Black civil rights movement? I mean, and we ask this question because historically LGBTQIA plus people have been at the center or the forefront of modern civil rights movements. Bayard Rustin, most recently there's a lesbian woman and a trans person who was involved with starting Black Lives Matter, etc. Yet when things happen, it seems like we're kind of left out or pushed to the side. Do you guys feel included in the current Black civil rights movement? If so, tell me why.
I think it depends on how you see yourself. If you prioritize your sexuality or your gender over your race, that dictates where your drive goes, right? So if I concentrate on being a Black man doing what I do, most cases, the anti-racist thing will be the forefront for me. But if I'm still fighting to feel safe as a Black gay man, I may find that the fight is different. So I really feel like it depends on your personal position and what you claim as your main identity.
Yeah,
Okay.
I align 100% with that. I would say, for me, I think I've been able to engage in it, but I also know, to Cory's level of work, that part of it is because I've also been able to be socialized and present as very masculine presenting. So I've been able to be in spaces and places at the comfortability of hetero Black men who only understand sexual orientation based off of your proximity to masculinity or femininity. But I think in doing the work, though, I've always taken a very intersectional approach to that, looking at how I can help move the movement for both not only those Black folks who fit in the box of what Black means, but also those Black folks that are genderqueer or trans or gender non-binary, and making sure that that's centered in my work as well. Now, I don't start with that, because that doesn't usually always get me in the door if I'm transparent. But I also think part of it has to do with my own lived experience and grappling with, is it okay to be my full self in certain spaces? And I think that's also impacted how sometimes I enter the movement space. But I do feel like I've been welcomed and sought after as a thought partner, thought leader in the space.
Yeah, I would say that, we come from the time of HIV and AIDS, where it was, there was really no space for us. And so I didn't ever, all the resources were for white people, white men particularly. So I never really looked to be included. I made a space. So I remember, protesting and chaining myself to the White House, trying to make people understand that there were Black people on the other side of town that were also dying and getting put out of, Whitman Walker. I think they probably have a picture of me still there. So I never really considered, being welcomed, as long as this was something that was ingrained in my heart. My moral compass was in the right direction, and it was important for me to open doors, to make sure that not only were the doors open, but that we were seated at the table. So I completely agree with Jamie and Cory. We have our presentation when we walk in, we're Black, we're Black men, and we already know what they feel about us. But it has never been my consideration as to whether you were going to include me or not.
Okay. Thank you. Maurice says, I wish we could as a whole prioritize our humanity and spirituality rather than all of the other external factors.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen.
It's what unites us. It's what connects us. Yep.
So thank you, guys. Well, I'm going to move on to the second question I want to throw out there to you guys. Do you ever think in terms of equity that Black men will ever fare as equal to our Caucasian counterparts? Why or why not do you feel this way?
So I got a question about. Can I ask you a question back as the host?
You can.
Why do you care? I can hear it coming.
Yeah.
So only thing I challenge with that question is it sets our white counterparts as the benchmark. And as if we are, and which I think is part of the issue, that we subscribe and commit our lives to trying to attain this proximity to whiteness as the benchmark of success and arrival. I actually think Black people and Black people, we're talking about Black folks today, so I'll be very specific with Black people, but all people of color have surpassed and way expanded beyond where white folks are because of our ability to both navigate systems, but also move forward and create progress and transformation for our folks. So that's one thing. But in society, I guess if the question is, will we ever achieve equity in society or equal in society? No, unless structural changes like government and policy and reparations and things like that.
If I had one of them little clappers, I would give you a clap just for but I'm just going to do this. I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys.
I agree. 2 years ago, well, it aired last summer. I had the fortunality to be one of the experts on an A&E series that dealt with addictions on the digital side, and it was an interesting process because I'm telling the producers, now I've already done production work. I've been a host here in DC. And I said, you chose me from my expertise, but you only given me Black or people of color to work with on camera. I said, do you not think that my almost doctorate degree qualifies me to work with the white families that you're not putting on me?
Ooh.
And I said, if I come back next season, just understand, I love my work, but I will sacrifice a paycheck if I can't show as a Black man that I can deal with any culture. So literally you have to challenge and risk certain things. If they don't call me back now, the gift is I got a call back 2 months ago that he wants me on another A&E show, because I feel like if you stand up for yourself, some people are waiting on you to stand up for yourself.
Exactly.
Going to Jamie's point, I don't think it'll be equal, but we have to, it won't be given to us. Everything that we've gotten is not because a white person said, oh, that's nice, they deserve that. We had to have some kind of uproar, some kind of challenge. So I challenge everybody who's watching that if you want something to be equitable, you always have to fight for it. And what are you willing to risk in order to get that equity? I may never get a call back, but they know how I stand, though.
Right.
George is right, because the thing is that not only are they not going to give it to us, but they're not even going to invite us to it. And so, as he speaks about, what my qualifications are, you don't think I'm qualified to help someone who is not of my race. It says a lot about how white America thinks, well, not only white America, but predominantly white America thinks about us and about what we can and cannot, contribute. So I said earlier, sometimes it's about getting in the door Other times it's about getting a seat at the table. So as Cory said, you know, you just have to keep pushing. And this is why equity, there will never be, at least in my time, and I pray that at least my sons would be able to witness it. But there's another route that we have to go in order to get through it. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of prayer to get through a lot of what we do when we wake up in the morning. And we know that every morning when we step out this door, something is seeking to destroy us.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Actively.
So you talk about going into a studio or production studio or going into some of the meetings that Jamie has to attend in his role, and you just can imagine the exhaustion that causes. So, you know, we'll find another way, you know, that is softer in its orientation, so that we can save ourselves and save each other.
Right,
if I can add on to what you said something very interesting and it sparked something. You said, and I'm paraphrasing, about working for what your sons can also receive. It's very interesting that in Black community, I feel like we're fighting for the next level to find some more peace while our counterparts are fighting to keep their wealth.
That's right.
These are see, white people are not fighting for, you know, for peace. They're not fighting for, you know, all of these things that we're fighting for, and we don't even have the wealth. We just want the opportunity to start having the wealth, so that becomes a new fight. I don't want to fight for my place. I want to fight for how much is it worth.
That's right.
What can I pass down? So our fight is totally different than theirs.
Right.
So that's why there's a misunderstanding. They don't get it because the empathy and compassion that they think they have is relatively absent.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's the institutions, you know, we see what's happening even in the valuation of your home if you try to sell it.
Absolutely.
So the banks are a part of this conspiracy. The government is a part of it. Just saw this young man, this young brother, who we're actively looking at him. 75 years for spitting on a police officer is what he was sentenced to. So when you have these kinds of things, where the whole construct is to make sure that Black men do not get ahead, then, you know, there's no equity and there will be no justice, even no justins. The way we have over the last week, and Wright and Call was on the phone all day over the weekend, you know, with contacts trying to get this to happen. So equity is nothing we should expect.
Well, I think we're gonna keep it moving, because I think that we might have to come back to this. See, the reason for asking you guys some of these questions is so that we can come back and have, you know, expand on some of the, you know, on this conversation. But thank you guys. But yeah, let's keep moving so we can keep this going.
Our next question is about hope and the fact that without it, our people would have perished long, long ago. So I'm asking you guys to consider your hopes for the Black gay man as we move forward. What are your hopes for, you know, we have weathered many storms. We, as Sundiata mentioned earlier, you know, we have come through and seen the devastation of almost, there's that saying that, you know, if America gets a cold, Black America gets the flu. Like it is, you know, whether it be the HIV epidemic, pandemic, whatever hits one community, it hits us harder. What are your hopes as you think of the future of Black gay men right now? What are your hopes for them? And I will say, and I want to be, I know we're talking mainly about men, but I really would say like the LGBTQ community in general, not just Black men.
Well, I can only speak for Black men, same gender loving Black men. I'm going to answer that question. My hope is that we can start seeing something better than we are seeing in us. I am, you know, so disheartened by the way we treat each other, you know, by all of these subcategories and subclasses of same gender loving Black men. I know social media has really allowed a big division in terms of how we see each other, how we communicate with each other. And I think it's very important that we maintain some sense of interconnection, that when my brother is in trouble, so am I. anything that affects one affects us. So I hope that, as we start to see or never really saw, HIV and AIDS cases decline in our community and other STDs, I'm hoping that we can, find a better way to treat each other and to see each other. But that only starts, George, we can have a long line of people who need to sit with you and discuss their trauma, because it really starts with us. It starts with my hope.
Anyone else?
Jamie or Cory?
I'll piggyback off of Sundiata. My first answer, because I was going to answer, and I said, what if we just don't use LGBTQ anymore and we're just here? What if we take away all those dividers and those, the subs, and realize that we have enough just being Black. We have enough just being Black.
Right.
We got to wake up knowing subconsciously and consciously I got a code switch. Because I know when I'm with certain people, I talk a little gutter. And then in these places, I got to show up as like I got some sense.
Or they don't call you back into that studio.
Right. But, I don't see the Caucasian counterparts having to necessarily do that. So for me, every time I divide myself, I feel like that's a container inside a container. It's like those Chinese boxes where it's like 8 boxes inside.
Yes.
But who you are is that last box. You're suffocated into that final small box. So that's the first thing. And then we talk about traumas. I always tell people that. So I don't have a coming out trauma. I don't have to worry about that. I had other traumas that were more important in my life. But I work with populations of people who are well achieved, well off financially, 40s, 50s, and are still dealing with that relational trauma, and that shows up in how they relate to each other. So to piggyback off of what you said, we need to treat each other better. The only reason why we're not doing that is because we have an internal insecurity that's manifesting in projection. So when you work on those things, like if I see you guys in public, I say hi, I have no issue with you because I know I don't have an issue with me. So I don't think anything that is not of me. I don't hate myself, so I'm not going to hate you. I don't not love myself, so I'm not going to not love on you if I see you.
Okay. All right, Jamie.
Yeah. I would say, the first word that came to mind for me was liberation. I think it's interesting for me because I think I'm from maybe a lot of us, but I remember like I'm 41 right now, so I remember.
What a babe.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like these knees don't feel like it.
I'm not even going to tell y'all what I told him on a text. Okay.
I was like,
okay,
I came out of Howard 4 years ago.
Okay.
But I recall when like social media was. I remember what being gay and being a Black male was prior to like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all those things. And I remember, I was just when I was getting kind of like coming out or like at least accepting that aspect of myself right after college. And it felt so much, although there were a lot of systemic oppressions, there was still a lot of stigma around HIV AIDS. There was still a lot of stigma. So folks were very closeted. There was a sense of freedom of self and to be community that I feel like has been taken away with with social media.
Yes.
And where folks are so, back in the day, you didn't have to compare yourself to someone else's physical appearance every day. You just, maybe when you went to Sizzle or you went you went to the beach, maybe you were reminded then about you may need to hit the gym a little harder or put the extra slice of pizza down. But these generations now, and all of us navigating that, have constant reminders of our inequity or inefficiencies, I should say, in ourselves, which only exacerbate some of the traumas and insecurities that create some of the relationships that we've all talked about. So I just hope, liberation of self, of intimidation, of insecurities. And that's why I like folks like Lil Nas X. A lot of people not a fan of Lil Nas X, but to see a black man on an international platform and to be gender fluid in the way that he is and to be acknowledged and respected for it, that would have never happened when I was his age. So
no.
Yeah, not at all. Well, but we're gonna close on this topic. But I want to ask you all before we do this, briefly, if you could tell us, and share with our audience, what are you doing for self-care? How
It's a family show. It's a family show.
How are your sleep patterns? I'm just gonna leave it right there. I'm not even gonna give it any type of justification. What are you doing for self-care to close this out? And please keep it to about 60 seconds. Okay.
Okay, I'll start. I am going away for a week. I've been doing extensive work in doctoral studies. I know that Jamie understands doctoral studies, along with raising a family. I'm taking a reprieve for a week. And you guys talked about skincare. I started a new skincare routine. I'm balancing work with fitness because I know fitness also biologically helps me feel good. And it looks good in the summer in my tank tops.
Amen. Hallelujah.
I'm socializing more because usually I'm kind of in the house doing everything I do. And I'm forcing myself to realize there are some beautiful people out there that I just have not reconnected with. So that's my self-care for here and throughout, at least as long as I can manage it.
Yeah.
How about you, Sundiata?
Cory, we need to get together and have some lunch or some dinner or something. Because I'm an empty nester now. I have 3 boys in college. One of them graduated from FAMU.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
He's in grad school now. So I'm an empty nester. And so, I exercise. I drink lots of water. I meditate and pray. I'm working on my 4th book. I have to feed Bobby and Nietzsche constantly, so I'm always in the kitchen.
His gumbo is to die for. His gumbo and oxtails. I'm just telling you. Okay, but
we have to have everybody over. So, for me, it's really easy. I know how to calm my mind. And I know how to tackle, when the ego starts to appear in my head, and I don't mean the ego like I'm the finest thing walking. I mean the part of the fear, the etching God out. That visit with all of us from time to time. Jimmy was just mentioning all of our, securities and, things that we compare ourselves to and from. But, it's really easy to calm those voices. They don't visit with me as often as they used to because I know how to make that happen. So right now, I've got, one of my sons is captain of the track team. So this is spring season. I'm going to be running all over the country with that. Another one's playing baseball down in Hampton. So I'm going to be running down to that. And for me, it's all self-care because they are not living in my home. So
that is your self-care. All right. All right. Jamie?
I would just say quick, learning how to say no more intentionally. And creating healthy boundaries with the role of work in my identity. So not being so tied to my professional identity to create space for my personal life at this point. So those are 2 of my big things.
Thank you.
Nice.
All right. Well, let's go to the next segment because I'm going to get these questions in before y'all leave. Okay, because I'm determined. Okay, y'all. Okay. Let's go to the next section real quick.
So it's come up a number of times already in different things that people have said. We've kind of talked about this notion of sex and gender. And with all the things that are going on in the world, we've got the Bud Light thing happening. We've got, people wanting to make sure that we have transgender athletes out of sport, et cetera. I just want to get a general vibe of where you guys are. What is the difference between gender and biological sex? Do you guys have any opinions on that? Or answers to that?
It's just my job every day, but I don't want to give the academic answers.
No, give it. I mean, you can get whatever answer you want to give.
Yeah, give what you want.
Many of us are still trying to understand it and figure it out. So I think it's
so. I mean, I know both Cory and everyone else can add to this, but if folks can understand, gender is an identity. We've created a construct around it. So, like, the idea that this baby comes out with this body part, it gets a pink blanket, it wears dresses, it plays with dolls. We created the pink blanket, the dresses and dolls. And whatever your belief system, God, biology did not create that. We as people, which means gender and gender performance are constructed by society. Sex is the biology, the chromosomes, the body parts, the way that your body matures over time, the certain medical attention that you need. So you can have a sex, a physical being, but connect to the socially constructed identity of gender, because they're not the same. They're different.
You know,
Well,
I'm a father of a trans
Very well
daughter. Thank you for that.
Yes.
I'm a father of a trans daughter, and she went through her cycle trying to identify exactly what she was. Starting at 15, from bisexual to gay to non-gender conforming to now where she is now. And I'm glad that I created the safe space for my children just to talk, because I didn't grow up in that. So I knew one thing about my parenthood is that we're gonna talk. And if it's uncomfortable, let's sit in that, because there's just things we just got to adjust to it. And so what I've allowed her to do, because I'm older. So for example, I slipped and I said transvestite. And she was like, no, it's not the word. And I said, well, I'm 40 something. You're a teenager. I would like you to enlighten me. So I offer her the opportunity to correct me, because I'm not in tune, because it's not my world.
Yes.
But this is my child, and I want to love her and respect her. So I offer my child the opportunity to teach me what that means to her. And she does a great job, because sometimes I just say what I know from, the 80s and 70s, and it's wrong per now. And so I understand it more now, because back in the day we only had, gay, bi, and lesbian. Back in our day, right, Alvin? So and even
that's it.
Even that was hard enough, because many people did not know how to identify. And now we have letters. And so I understand the difficulties that people are facing, especially the older people who are like us, thinking black, gay, or lesbian. Which one are you of the three? But I was 9 or 10. So I just say to those who don't understand, do not let your understanding allow you to disrespect anybody. Just ask for understanding. Just ask for understanding.
We all are struggling in some ways with our own identities, even still. The only thing that I really do know about this is that self-identity, self-expression, regardless of the social constructs, is the most precious and profound idealism that we have to control on our own. And that in itself just embraces the self-love, that you have. Some of these young men and women are just so brave, and so young to be so brave. I was not so brave when I was struggling with my identity, trying to figure out where I was. So I applaud them and I support them. It was one of my questions as I'm raising, as a single man, who's same gender loving, 3 boys, just looking out for any indication or clue, to make sure that when something appeared, that I would be there to support them through whatever it was, you know. And so you have to give a lot of credit to these children and to the people in their lives who are supporting them through what could be a very difficult and dangerous time, just to learn to love yourself.
Can I just add something real quick to this, or we don't? I think I just challenge a lot of Black folks to think about, if you can understand the movement and the process of trying to fight racism, and for us, and the exhaustion and fatigue folks have about explaining why race matters and how Black folks are treated differently. I just ask folks to open their minds to understand that's the same thing for gender, particularly people who do not fit on this binary of man and woman. So even though you may not understand the terms, or your religious beliefs don't allow you to be an advocate or an ally for it, just understand that it is very similar to having to explain your identity and your humanity to the very same way that we have had to do and we continue to do since
That's an excellent point,
kidnapped and brought to this country. So I just want to take that moment for folks watching. I hope they can be willing to do that.
And spread the word. Right.
Exactly. Tell your folks about it too. Right.
That's
Look, guys, you know what? Again, you guys know that we want you to be on here until at least 9 o'clock. But
it's a great discussion. I'm loving this. So much.
Well, I'm loving it too. But sometimes when I be looking at my clock, I'm a time conscious person. But anyway, you guys know that. You guys know me very well. But I do want to jump to the last segment of our questioning for you guys, and that's about free speech, okay, and hate speech. And Bobby, I know you had an introduction for that, so I know you
keep it short because I want us to be able to get to some answers. And basically, the question we're asking you to consider at a time when there is so much effort right now through legislation and so forth to restrict people, to misinterpret people, to misrepresent people, and really kind of erase truth from what we do and what we say. The question is, so what does free speech look like to you? In this day and age where so much is challenged, truth is challenged on such a regular basis now, what does free speech look like to you?
So I'm just going to say this, because the truth is under threat and it's under attack. But truth is only threatening to those who don't walk in it.
Well, can you say that again?
Truth is only threatening to those who don't walk in it.
Amen.
And this is what puts free speech under attack, because we know that there's a lot of people, ungodly, unspiritual, self-hating people who are attacking the truth to benefit their own kind. And so my only response to free speech is we don't have an option other than to quiet that noise, quiet those voices, and speak louder than they do. And that's going to require us to change who we have going to legislation, to represent us, and stop allowing them to redline, certain areas. So just remember that the truth is only threatening to those who don't walk in it. And if you remember that, you'll know that these are not personal attacks. Right? They just don't walk in the truth.
Well, I have a question for you. What is the truth?
The truth is as it is. It is not something that hides itself. It is always there. It's ever present. We have enough history, enough books, enough knowledge to know what is right there in front of your face. And you cannot make me blind to see what I have already seen, either through my eyes or the eyes of my ancestors, or the eyes of where I've been and where I've traveled and where I've studied. You cannot make the truth go away. It's always going to prevail.
So truth then is based on experience. Yes. If I'm taking what you're saying.
Truth is life, and it is based on our experiences.
So then someone who has not had your experiences would have a different truth. And then how do we reconcile that?
Well, because some of this truth is, we know that you cannot change the fact that Rosa Parks was on a bus and was arrested.
And was asked to move because of her race, not just to move. It was because of her race.
Because the window was better. It was a better window.
Right.
If you go to Florida and read one of a book in Florida,
she got asked to move.
She just got asked to move, and then that's left to, your own thoughts about why did she get mad and why did Black people, act a fool and boycott. So the truth is always, inevitably, it's going to show itself. So it's our collective experience as the loving men of color and as men of color, Black men in this world. There's not an experience, Vash, that I can tell you that I have had that you can't say, well, same thing happened to me. Or I know somebody who it happened to.
I understand. I understand, but there are people who will then say, "I've not had that experience." That's not all the time. That's not my experience. Therefore, that's not true, and I'm going to fight you tooth and nail. That's the only reason where I was going.
Then you leave that argument alone. You don't argue.
But some of those things are so important because we are locked in them. In terms of how do we move forward. So
I think it's important too that we get off of these phones and we start reading about our history and reading about what we have, known about ourselves and those people in our family. Thank God there's mental health counseling now. Cory, that 10 years ago we would never speak of it, especially around Black tables.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because two things I just want to add to what you said, and because I want to make sure Jamie has a chance to talk. The truth is always the facts. Where we go wrong is when it collides with feelings. Right. And if you rule the truth with feelings, you already made a mistake.
Already done.
You already made a mistake.
Mhm.
Because if it's blue to all of us. Now, if blue makes you feel a way, if blue is triggering or blue is exciting, you will probably lean on the experience of your feelings, and then that turns into what we write in the books. So it's not about the experience, it's more about what do you accept as fact. And the fact is fact. Like, you can't change facts, but you can reconcile feelings about facts, right? Because you mentioned reconciliation. But when you mentioned the question, the first thing I said, well, if we don't teach our children to make them comfortable to have freedom of speech in our own families, at our own tables, at our own family reunions, how in the hell do we expect them to go out in public and feel safe enough to express their feelings and their speech?
Yeah, it has to be modeled. Absolutely.
That's the work I do with families. You want him or her to be able to express themselves in a logical way, but you don't hear your child. Man, sir, what am I here for? You know? So for me, is the freedom of speech is being able to express your opinion about the facts in a way that moves something forward. I would hope that that's what it is. But as you see, we don't use it that way often in terms of how it collides. So I say the freedom of speech is too broad, because the freedom of just talking is just talking. But what is the side effect of that talking? So that's my contribution.
Cool. Jamie, hold on, Sundiata, let me let Jamie weigh in on this. Because we got a few more minutes, and so
the only thing I agree with everything that's been said. The only thing I would say is I think freedom. Nothing is free for folks who don't have control over power or systems or resources. So there are risks and repercussions, I think, for freedom of speech, particularly for folks who have been the non-dominant, who have been structurally oppressed. I would invite people, this is not a self-pubbing moment, but if you were to Google my name and Google the University of Alabama, you will see why I no longer work in higher ed, because of my belief in freedom of speech to speak up for Black people. And I was forced resigned from my senior executive role at that university because of that. So I say that freedom of speech has repercussions and risks, particularly if it's not those who are in power. And I would say that the only other thing I would add about real quick on the what is truth is that I think that the challenging part we have now versus in the past, these things happen, that Rosa Parks and the Civil Rights Movement, those things happened. But with the passing of law, a lot of our experiences with racism became perceived feelings of covert actions versus overt actions that were stapled in law. So now we don't because everything that folks think that we're saying is skewed because it's really about feelings and experience and less about fact, because the laws allow us in spaces that it once did not allow us. So,
All right. Well, guys, again, I could have y'all on here till 9 o'clock. I just want y'all to say that, and I'm going to let you all just, give a quick closing. But we've come to the end of the show, and I just want to thank you. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Sundiata. Thank you, Cory, for coming on and talking with us. This series of our show, Aging While Black, even though some of you were not even born when I, decided to do some things that I was doing in my life. It really means a lot to us because our audience, they really appreciate what Vash, Boddie, and I bring to them. And so you have enabled us to do that tonight and through conversation. So thank you guys. So
I want to say that I want to echo that. I want to say that I really hope that the divine intervention and our own efforts will allow us to gather I would so love to have brunch with this group right here and just sit around a table and just talk about the world. And Jamie, I just want to say, curse you, because you were I was I graduated from Howard 40 years ago. So stop. So just stop.
But you know what I'll say real quick, Cory may not remember. Cory and I met each other years ago. And I followed his career and what he's done. So it's been an honor to be reconnected. Cory, you don't remember, do you? But that's okay.
Of course. Look, you know what? We're not doing that.
That's another show.
I'm right there with you, Jamie.
Because I was going to this. I think we feel the same about each other because I think he forgets me. So I think it's.
Okay.
I think it's a mutual adoration that we don't get a chance to say all.
Okay.
So
See, now y'all brought it back together.
It's really all three. Well, all of you all on this screen, but you three are in my journal, and I mean, you are all three of you. And Sundiata knows I've known Sundiata for years, and he was the first person to write an article about me and me as a producer producing an event, and I have it framed. And so I just know how powerful your words are. I know how powerful your voices are. And again, we are so happy to have you here. But before we go, I got to give everybody, our guests, our viewers, the words of the week.
Words of the week.
The words of the week. Okay. The best revenge is none. Heal, move on, and don't become like those who hurt you. All right.
You see their head shaking? Yes.
Well, see, we had a conversation about that today because I told Bobby you might have to say that because there's some sweet revenge. I like people when you doubt me and I show up looking like I don't look like your doubt. Okay.
He said, what about when you see your ex and you were looking good? Like you are looking good.
No, thank you guys. We have come to the end of our show. Thank you guys again for joining us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you again. And to everybody who's watching, thank you for tuning in to this episode.
Please have them back on. Please.
If we can. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a good week. Try to enjoy the weather. If you're in DC, please try to enjoy Emancipation Day DC. And we'll see you next week on the new episode of He Said.
He Said.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.